Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to SImblified. We are all gathered today to bid farewell to Srikeit. Wait, producer, stop. Not mournful music. Not mournful music. I didn't mean farewell in that way. The guy is literally still here. Let's try again. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to SImblified. It's a momentous day. One of the greatest podcasters of all time. He's never going to grace a mic again. He's given us so many memories, so many facts, so many reactions to Chuck's bad joke. Oh, producer, wrong farewell. He's not leaving the field show. Let's try that again. Hello and welcome to SImblified, where we have assembled today to say bye to Srikeit as he leaves our shores for whiter pastures. I'm talking about the snow, of course. The rumors are true, our boy is indeed leaving. If you're a Bollywood celebrity, conduct all nefarious activities tomorrow, since the Paps will be at Mumbai Terminal 2 tomorrow, as will a legion of fans. I'm not going, by the way, I have a driving class. As our boy has decided that his new home is Toronto. This is Srikeit's last official show on SImblified to be recorded on Indian shores. Of course, once he lands up in Toronto, it's quite likely he'll find an apartment above one of the 76,298 Indian restaurants in the city. So he might well end up recording on India, if not in India. So, to celebrate this transition, we have brought together several facts about Canada and shall discuss them, for this is another edition of SImblified Half Pints. Who's joining me today in mourning Srikeit's imminent immigration? Now, I know imminent immigration is technically wrong, but eminent emigration seemed kind of awkward. Anyway, we have Tony and Naren.
Yeah. Wow. That was something. Yes.
I can't wait for somebody else to leave.
The heart is heavy.
You look like you sounded. This is the most joyous. I don't know about you guys, but after having written this, I definitely want like my funeral to be like this.
Like this?
Like this, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
You realize you're the last one who's going to die amongst the four of us because you've got into major fitness while Naren's aging and Srikeit and I are like, fuck it. Anyway,
wow, complete shade thrown at Naren, by the way.
No, seriously.
I really want to stress this is not my funeral.
Yeah, nobody said it was. I mean, I blame our producer for playing that music and putting me in the mood. I listen to progressive metal, yeah. Like, if I hear minor chord, my mind immediately goes to
death metal.
Death metal, yeah.
I was actually sort of brushing up my Mark Antony speech and all friends, Romans, countrymen, the good is oft interred with their bones. That kind of stuff.
Naren, signs of life called back from the previous episode.
Signs of life. And,
I thought you said funeral, but I thought you said puner. I thought it like pun error.
Pun error.
Is this the cue for us to like?
They were pretty deadly.
Jump into a
definitely
pun
a funeral.
run, or is that later? Chuck, should I
don't know. Like, I don't know what you guys have planned for.
Okay, let me tell you about my Canadian fact. It's not a fact, it's just a pun run. So all you need to do here is find a pillow to scream.
Pun run later, pun run at the end. Sorry. Thanks for spoiling that also, by the way.
No, I do have an interesting Canada fact. I don't know much about Canada except one thing. I get very emotional when I read about Canada every time I go driving anywhere in Bombay, right? So there is so much traffic. And
Naren's basically telling you that he's got a driving license already, Chuck. For all the shade you throw it.
Naren, yes. Continue. With your Canadian fact.
So there's this place called Newfoundland or something, okay? And it has some 1 person per square kilometer or something like that. So makes me very emotional every time I go driving in Bombay, because we have, so Malad has not only the highest population density in the world, it also has.
Excuse?
I'm pretty sure it's in the world. Yeah, I mean, nothing comes close. I mean, just
is this based on your like feelings or some sort?
Yeah, feelings. Entirely my subjective assessment.
Vibes.
We don't mess around with unscientific things like actual data and all now. You know, this is like you reflect inside, you meditate, and then you sort of come to a conclusion.
And then when the green light comes, you move. This all I've learned. I learned driving in Malad, by the way. My driving instructor took me on MG Road and he said, if you can ride on this road, you can ride anywhere on the road. They're like, you're absolutely right about that. Oh boy. Anyway, so is this your fact? The sparseness of
was
Canada?
No, he's
saying
just
that-
getting into it.
Yeah.
It's just like
Okay.
moving the gear from neutral to first. You wait. Like,
And
there are
I've
several
sort of
gears.
lost, I'm very close to losing the thread of what I was going to say. But let me make a manly effort.
Okay, in Malad, you can only go from first gear to second and back to neutral. So
This even I know
let's
now.
go for second.
Wow.
And speaking of second gear, I used to have an aunt who used to drive. This I have to tell, okay? This has nothing to do with Canada, but this is the most awesome story. So she used to drive in, so her husband had an ambassador, okay? And so...
Car or the diplomat?
No, the car.
In his
the
basement.
Car, okay? So...
He's kidnapped the diplomat and put him in his basement. So he has an ambassador.
So anyway, that ambassador car, she used to drive it around. So she used to drop him to work. I mean, they used to go together. And then from there, she would take the car and sort of gallivant all over the city. And she didn't know how to change gears. And Ambassador was such a sorted car, you can drive that entire vehicle in third gear. Everywhere. So my aunt never had to figure out how to put the gear. So she should just go in third gear everywhere.
It is
an
automatic
automatic
before
manual.
automatic.
It is an automatic
Third gear
manual.
plus clutch. Yeah, everything. And so she would come to our house. She'd take all the kids, her kids, me, my sisters, everybody get in. We go off to the beach, everything. And then at the beach, she didn't know how to take a reverse turn, right? Because she didn't know how to change the. So she would catch a taxi driver and tell him reverse karo, and the taxi driver. Such was the magnetism of her personality that the taxi driver would reverse it, and then you should put it in third gear, and then you put it in third gear, and she would come.
Amazing.
So
Yeah, no, this is actually a pretty common thing. Yeah,
you
so
can do
I
this.
know-
Yeah, you can do this in Canada now. You can't do this in
Wow,
India.
that is a way
You
to bring it
definitely
back.
can't do it in Malad. Yeah.
Yeah, so there's another fact that was about, similar story which was there. I think there was this one girl who had learned how to drive. She had a car and she learned how to drive, but she later employed a driver because she used to earlier drive in Kerala, and in Kerala, she didn't know how to park the car anywhere. In reverse, she didn't know how to drive reverse at all, or like successfully park the car anywhere, and she had a trauma about parking it. But in Kerala, she used to still drive the car because she would always find someone over there to park the car. She would give it to some random dude who would park the car for her. And when she came to Bombay, she was like very afraid that she'll give the key to some random fellow and take the car and go away. So she hired a driver because she didn't want to park the car anymore.
I didn't know
Awesome.
Kerala had this parking as a service.
Me neither.
I think it speaks of Madlu hospitality. Anyway, Naren,
I
you
mean,
have another
just to like break the mold, right? And like just to reaffirm that we are not that
act as a
podcast
speed breaker in the
speed breaker, but also to ensure that people don't assume we are that podcast that says women can't drive. My wife knew how to drive before I did, and it's
Same
quite
here,
likely
yeah.
that
Same here. Wow, that makes
Pun
it
will
wow.
learn before you, Chuck. So
Yeah, no, she already has. She got a
actually-
license. Well, yeah, she got a license already. Yeah.
There you go. Yeah.
Oh
so
wow, that makes
this is the
3 out of 3.
podcast where
There we go. There we go. We might
women
be a
know
mammal,
how
but
to
we are
drive
very
better, but they are
egalitarian.
not allowed near a mic because they are driving the car. Unfortunately.
Well, Naren, you were going off onto your second fact.
Fact that I wanted to tell you. I don't mean to demoralize you or anything, but this is what someone was telling me. So he asked his friend. So this guy moved to Canada from India, and the first year summer was approaching. So
Summer.
after a really harsh winter, okay, it's winter for most of the years. As summer approaches, this guy is asking his colleague, "Hey, what do you do for summer?" So this colleague says, "I think we are going to be working that day." So I don't want to demoralize you, but yeah, be prepared. Yeah.
You
How-
could have
how-
replaced
how-
this
how-
with Mumbai winter till before this year.
Yeah. We had our second day of winter yesterday.
Yeah.
I think you remember. How cold resistant are you, by the way?
This is the classic unresolved question that I have, right? Like, so I have tried to gauge how cold does it really get, and for me, the maximum cold I've experienced is 0 degrees in Manali. All right, and that was cold, but like, yeah, I was wearing winter clothes and all that stuff. Plus, Manali doesn't really count because I've never experienced cold in urban settings. Like you're going in the hills, then you feel cold. So you're going down winding roads, you're anyway mentally prepared for all of that stuff. like stepping out of your house and feeling cold is not something I have ever experienced. So yeah, that is going to be a new one.
Yeah. Get used to this. Don't get too used to this voice, dear listeners, because it might change over the course of the next few episodes. That
through gritted teeth.
Okay.
There is another awesome thing someone told me. Now that Canada has legalized marijuana and it is always cold, your state is going to be, if they're calling Canada the hibernation.
Oh my God.
Nice.
Oh no, there were so many good ways that could have ended, and that was not one of them.
Hibernation.
But anyway, okay. So here is my first fact. I think I have 3, 4. I forgot. Anyway, Winnie the Pooh was named after a Canadian city. Winnie was derived from Winnipeg. So when A.A. Milne got his idea from an actual bear in England, the name was partly from Canada. But that is only the fact setup. It didn't seem like a satisfying enough fact. It didn't have that simplified.
Je ne sais quoi.
That thing. Wow, he's learning French already.
Oh my God.
Oh my God. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
That
well
only.
done. You're
So
well prepared.
I googled up. So I googled up Canadian poop, and I got the
As one
following-
does.
As one does, because
Canadian poop or
Winnie the
Canadian poo?
Poop. Yeah, Winnie the Pooh. So I thought, let's take it to its logical conclusion, and I searched for Canadian poop.
Because yes, poop is the logical conclusion of poo. But yes.
No, but like, can I just break this to say, whenever you type ratio, do you end up typing ration? Like I have to my finger
my
accidentally
goodness.
just does
Yes.
end.
Whenever I have to
Does it?
type the word market, I end up typing marketing.
Marketing only. Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. It's quite sad, actually. But anyway, so when I
Canadian
googled up
poop.
Canadian poop, I got the following headline: "Poop rained from Canada's skies and nobody knows why." And I quote from the aforementioned article: "In all, 18 different cases of poop projectiles falling from the sky have been reported in Canada." The story is updated a few days later. No lesser publication than The Guardian. Canada, Aviation Authority denies responsibility for feces that fell from sky. So this is my fact number 1. All I'm saying, Skinny, along with the winter wear, you might want to get like an umbrella or something of this sort.
Here is where I will give a counter fact, which a lot of people forget. Canada is the second largest country in the world.
Wait,
right?
what?
Yeah, by
this.
landmass, Canada is the second largest country in the world, and like it encompasses half the Arctic Circle, like in its side. And but yes, honestly, most of Canada is uninhabitable because of like Arctic region and stuff like that. So most people stay around the southern areas and all. But when you say species reigned in Canada,
It could be like,
yeah, you're talking about like a pretty large area where that could have happened.
one thing about the United States that impresses me always is how they talk about Alaska and completely ignoring the fact that there's one massive country in the middle. They just say, from California to Alaska, like a oil pipeline
It's
from
not like
Alaska
Kashmir to
to
Kanyakumari.
Yeah.
But
Go walking these days.
I just want to tag on to Sriket's fact, right? Which was that practically when Srikeit was in Malaysia, India was the second most populous country in the world. Right? And as he's leaving India, India has become the most populous country in the world, beating China. So let's hope Srikeit goes to Canada and they finally annex the whole of the United States to become the largest country in the world and not just the second largest country in the world.
Oh, wow.
This is what
wow.
Srikeit's secret mission is. I'm sorry to have leaked it out.
For all the immigration agents listening into this, I have no such intentions. Please let me in.
Yeah. Srikeit is like, I am not responsible for facts falling from the sky. Feces.
Brilliant. Okay, that's brilliantly done.
Okay. So my Canada fact is that Canada has a $1 coin, and which came about in 1987. I think the same year Srikeit was born.
Yes.
Yeah, it features a duck,
Both of
which
us,
is called
right?
a loon, and therefore the coin is called $1 coin is called a loonie. And obviously they came up with a $2 coin in 1996, and being the wonderful pun-loving people they are, they decided to call it a toonie. Although, so loonie and toonie are the $1 and $2 coins in Canada, even though the $2 coin actually features a polar bear on the, I want to say, obverse side or reverse side. One of those sides is a bear and a duck, but they call it a loony and a toonie. But do you know what is on the other side of the coin?
It's
the queen?
number.
Sorry, Naren.
The number.
The queen?
The queen, yeah, Naren's got it. No number.
The queen.
Please. It is a queen.
I thought
because,
the polar bear. Considering the Indian population has grown so much in Canada, they can call the polar bear coin as the bhaluni.
Well done. This shall be your mission.
I was trying to land it somewhere on Srini Mama.
Yeah, but so the obverse side features the queen, I'm guessing because she's the head, and the tail was the duck or the polar bear.
Okay. Let's back up over there and let's talk about what actually needs to be addressed in the room. What is this obverse thing and what is that? Like you wanted to just use that word, I know. So please explain what is obverse and what the other thing obviously then
I think it's probably observe and I read it wrong.
Imagine next time you go for a coin toss, heads or tails. No, the obverse side, please.
No, but this is where also the thing that they're going to do now is a lot of these coins and notes are all stopped in circulation. They're all going to be taken
because
back.
The queen is dead.
New
Are you allowed to say the queen is dead,
Srikeit?
Srikeit?
King's facsimile.
Or UPI they'll start using you. Oh, maybe that's why Srikeit is.
Yeah.
Indian fintech spans to North America. All right.
But interesting facts around the introduction of the loonie, right? Basically, it was brought about as a replacement of the paper version of the Canadian dollar as a cost-saving measure, basically, right? And it is a 11-sided aureate bronze coin, as it were. I'm guessing aureate means like 11-sided,
Dodecahedron is 12. So
Uno Deca?
If Naren's not going for this, I think we should all refrain from naming what an 11-sided thing is called.
I think we have reached an organic point to take a break there. So let's go.
If you need to use the loonies. Welcome back to SImblified, where we are sending Srikeit off to Canada with all the knowledge that he will need to pass the entrance exam that they will ask him at customs. So Srikeit, let me ask you, do you know what the Auty Cup is? AUTY.
Auty Cup?
Yeah.
No.
Anyway, good thing we have...
It's curling.
Good thing we have a cricket podcaster in the room. Tony Sebastian, do you know what the Auty Cup is? The longest running cricket tournament in the world. Stop laughing. Take this seriously. I am outraged by this. No idea. Okay, then we have to turn to Naren, who was there when it started. Okay, this kind of like a trick question. If I had given you enough time, Tony, you would have probably worked it out. You guys know what the first ever international cricket match was?
Yeah. USA versus Canada?
Yes,
or France.
It was indeed USA and Canada in 1844 at the St. George's Cricket Club in Manhattan, and Canada won by 23 runs.
Congratulations. Oh, wow. Canada won the first ever cricket match.
First ever international cricket match. Yeah, this predates the first ever test match, which was 1870 by 33 years. Not bad.
So there was one day when every other nation in the world had won no international matches and Canada had won one.
Yeah. In fact, you can almost say
one-day international.
You can almost say that Canada won 100% of all international cricket matches. Just imagine, Canada won a cricket match. Somebody of your current lifespan lived, and then the first test match happened. So
or that Canada won the first match, and the next day or the same day, someone died. And they died knowing that Canada is the only winner of any international cricket.
So if any of you want to start a sport,
that's how you do it.
And that's
die the day they win.
But you didn't tell us about Auty.
Yeah, the Auty Cup.
What is Auty?
So it's kind of like a trick thing because they decided to name it later, the Auty Cup. It was played, I think, a couple of times again after that. And now they're kind of reviving it again. And now it's gone from 2-day to... Obviously, there were no official test matches. And I think now they're playing ODIs and T20s. So the Auty Cup as a format, as a property is still kind of there. It's kind of like the North American Ashes, I suppose. One interesting thing I thought, are you a baseball fan by any chance?
I follow it somewhat, yeah.
Do you know Harry Wright and George Wright, the two baseball Hall of Famers?
Oh, the Wright brothers.
The Wright brothers.
Wow. But the Wright brothers' father, Samuel Wright Sr., was a cricketer for the USA in that match, and he took 5 wickets, and he was the member and groundskeeper of that club. So I thought that was interesting.
He was the
that you had-
groundskeeper. Dude, this
No,
is
he was
like
the captain and then the groundskeeper.
No, I'll tell you what, right? Like, so when I was playing in school, after my first Holy Communion, I got a set of stumps. Okay, so I was like, these fuckers
I mean,
wouldn't
as a
let me
gift
bowl
or
because
like, are you-
as a gift.
I mean, set
As a gift.
context.
No,
I
as a
have seen
gift.
stumps
So-
being used for many things.
And till that point, till like 5th grade or something, these fuckers wouldn't let me bowl because they claimed I was chucking when I was in 5th grade. So I was like, now my stumps, my rules, only if I can bowl, like, will you guys play? Right? This is same funda, like groundskeeper and captain and all means is like, if I'm not captain, you guys are not playing. Yeah.
My ground, my back, my village. Okay, so that was
basically
that was my
nice.
second fact.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Okay, so the national sport of Canada, the national winter sport of Canada is,
Moose
as you
racing.
can guess,
Ice hockey. Ice hockey, yeah.
yeah. But what is the national summer sport of Canada?
Moose racing.
Lacrosse.
Oh wow!
Cross.
Naren,
Really?
dude, it is. Yeah, it is.
Full quizzer mode, yeah.
Wow.
Naren's done all the research and has not.
I know,
got
man.
a
He
fact.
did his research solidly for this.
Okay,
You're really excited for
Naren,
me to go, aren't you?
Naren, okay.
Yeah.
Who
Man, I'm joining you.
who invented basketball?
James Naismith.
Naismith.
Yeah,
Jay, well
Naismith.
played, amazing. Naren's on a fucking roll, yeah. Okay, Naren, this
For
question
someone,
is.
yeah.
This question is for you. Okay, James Naismith was a Canadian American educator, etc., etc. There is one Indian from Canada who is in the Naismith Memorial Basketball Hall of Fame. Okay, he's also been given a top 25 Canadian Immigrants Award. Srikeit will probably know who this is. But Naren, do you know this Indian who's made the Naismith Memorial Basketball Hall of Fame?
No, I don't know this.
Chuck?
No.
Sim Buller?
Okay, no, this is not a. Okay, the hint is this is not a player. He doesn't play basketball.
Oh, is it the Nav? Nav?
Yes.
Nav? Oh, Nav.
Yeah,
Yeah, of
well,
course. It's a super
I
fan
told you.
Nav, na?
There you go. Okay, Srikeit, take it away.
Yeah, so Superfan Nav is this guy. So he's basically the Sardar guy who's a huge fan of the Toronto Raptors. And he actually
Nav
is
Bhatia.
I read about
Nav
this.
Bhatia.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, now Bhatia, he's like his turban and him going and cheering at the games is like a huge symbol. In fact, it's a great symbol of multiculturalism in Toronto and how like Toronto is like that melting pot where all these different people come and support. So now Bhatia is
So-
like a fixture in Toronto Raptors games
Yeah.
along with
So
Drake.
super fan is a subjective term, but I'll tell you how much of a fan he is. Now Bhatia had attended every Toronto Raptors home game since 1995 till the COVID pandemic struck in 2020. And like when they opened up the stadiums again to the fans, he continued attending till December 10, 2021 when he was forced into isolation because he was exposed to the COVID super bug, right? So practically for 25 years or 26 years, he attended every single home game of the
Insane.
Toronto Raptors. Yeah.
Insane.
That's amazing.
So you think Canadian,
that guy
Indian,
was
and you think
some
Akshay
next
Kumar,
level.
you are
His
wrong.
fandom is next level. And so a couple of years ago was the first time where Toronto Raptors actually won the NBA championships.
They did?
Yeah,
Wow.
they won the overall NBA championships, and when they won this thing, they were so Superfan Nav was like a big fixture of it. Like he was like, oh my god, this is happening, and like it was like a redemption story for Canadian basketball because it was always supposed to be like this stupid stepchild, and mostly Americans are interested in it, and basketball was not really much for Canadians. So this became like We the North became this big symbol for Canada and all that stuff, and that happened. So it was a pretty big deal, yeah.
So does the N in NBA now stand for North American?
No,
It still
Nav.
national. But NAV's Basketball Association.
Okay, that's nice. Very nice. By the way, Tony, you seem to be a fan of Canadian sport. Basically, the nice guys next to a raucous, angry neighbor. I don't think that this subtext has missed us, huh? You Kane Williamson hating.
Oh, man.
Anyway, you know, Naren, there are some of these. You will know, right? As a classical music fan, you would go to some of these videos that are positively unhateable by anybody, right? Like beautiful music or whatever, bringing communities and people across ages together, and you see only like upvote, and then there'll be this one guy who does a downvote. So yeah, Tony is that downvote for Kane Williams.
Do you remember the world's most famous YouTube comment? I think it's in Hindi, but I'm going to try unless Srikeit wants to go.
No,
Which
I
is,
don't know
What is this? I have no idea.
आपकी वॉइस में बहुत सादगी है अभिजीत भट्टाचार्य जी, पर आदमी सुअर हो. Have you not come across this YouTube comment? Come on.
No.
Oh, wow. Yeah. He's
I still don't know
G
what it
and all.
means.
Okay.
Yeah, there is a lot of simplicity in your voice, but you are a pig of a man.
Oh, okay. Oh, fair enough. Right.
Yeah.
No, there is also this
sung
one.
several
Context, by the way.
songs, yeah.
What was the context,
there is
by the way?
आप
From where did we go to
दिए
Kane?
हैं users आप दिए हैं users, yeah. So
Wow, for the first time in 295 episodes, our producer is going to have to bleep Naren. Wow. Oh boy. Both your sons have been on this podcast, Naren. As Andy Salzman is fond of saying, family show.
But actually, what I thought was what would be the most popular comment is what is the name of the track? And the most popular reply to that is, does anybody know this?
No.
When you comment on the internet that what is the name of the track that's playing in the background, what is the response that...
Do you rickroll?
No. Darude Sandstrom.
Oh yeah, I remember.
Darude Sandstrom is the reply for every time when anybody asks what is the track playing, you reply with Darude Sandstrom.
What, really? Okay. There's another one on singers.
yeah.
I don't know who this singer is, basically. This guy is like, I've been in a terrible accident and I've been wheelchair bound for the last 15 years. Today I got up for the first time, thanks to your music, to turn off the damn radio that is playing.
Wow. Okay, so since we are going on music, I have a half fact on music. Srikeit knows this answer, so tell me,
Celine Dion.
Not too far from the truth. Not too far from the truth. So I'm going to try and sing something.
Why you write it down?
Here we go.
You know what I'm doing.
Kadaloram.
Okay. I'm going to try and hum this out because it's more a instrumental piece.
Hum.
Shut up. Not that Canadian guy yet. Okay, here we go. What am I doing?
Morse code.
Oh, wow, not bad.
Wow.
Not bad. Okay, so there's a very famous Canadian band called Rush, one of my favorite bands. The Rush are from Toronto, and one of their most famous songs is an instrumental piece called YYZ. YYZ, for some obscure reason which the internet will tell you about, is airport code for Pearson Airport in Toronto. And once when they were landing, they saw YYZ and then they figured out the Morse code for it and they started playing it and say, hey, that's a nice little riff. And then they turned the whole thing into a song.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, what I hummed out was Morse code for YYZ, which is also the opening and the complete theme for the song YYZ from 1981's Moving Pictures.
I will play this as a tribute tomorrow when I am there.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Okay,
that might
but
half fact.
like based on our age, I want to do a Canadian throwback. Like the battle between Dhoni and Kohli, or the battle between Federer and Nadal. Back when we were growing up, there was a rivalry between this dude from Texas and another dude from Calgary in Canada.
Oh, San Antonio. Bret Hart and Shawn Michaels.
Yes. Well done.
Yeah, I celebrated.
How can we not talk about Canada without the Hart Foundation?
From Calgary, Alberta, Canada. The Calgary was the first city I ever knew from Canada because of Bret Hart.
Wow, that's so obscure. Calgary
Bret the
being
Hitman
first
Hart.
city.
Bret the Hitman Hart too. Yeah.
But Calgary, there's this thing about Calgary I heard, right? How do you put 10 people? How do you put 10 people into a Volkswagen Golf in Calgary? You tell them it's going to Vancouver.
What? Okay,
They all want to leave the place.
I don't know whether that's racist or whether that's a comment on the size of the.
Or
No, they all want to leave Calgary because there's nothing there, I'm
the
guessing.
laxity of rules in Canada. I don't know what.
Why Bret the Hitman Hart says that I would have stayed in. Look, but I think wrestling was very important for me to know a lot of cities. I knew Detroit because of Big Daddy Cool Diesel before. Cars.
Oh, yeah.
Then when I learned cars, it makes sense. Diesel was there from there.
Diesel.
Death
I
Valley,
didn't know
California.
this. But why
was,
shouldn't be petrol? Oh, Death Valley, California is Undertaker.
is Undertaker. And a lot of others. I think a lot of No, go ahead.
Yeah. No, Bret Hart. But do you remember how Owen Hart was probably
he
the
died, no?
first sports person to pass away on a pay-per-view? Like they didn't intend for it to happen. He was like
Yeah, and the
lowered down the
first-
ring, and
yeah.
he just like fell and like
Died,
broke
yeah.
his neck.
Yeah,
and
nobody
he
has
just, like,
footage
passed away.
of it either. Yeah, that was.
Really? No, there is footage. I mean, please don't
Nah.
make people Google this. There is obviously footage of it. Yeah. But anyway,
Okay.
Heart Foundation,
Heart Foundation.
which was mocked by D-Generation X's Fart Foundation because
I
that's what
remember
they are.
that. The Heart
Which
Foundation-
relates to the two characters from South Park who quintessentially Canadian, which is
Oh yeah, the two guys with the head bobbing. About. I forget.
Terrence
the
and
names.
Philip. So,
Terrence and
so the
Phillip.
two
Terrence and
tropes on South Park is that Canada has only one road. Okay, that is one trope that goes along. And then there's Terrence and Phillip who are like very
By the way, there's a
rudimentary
nice
cartoon characters.
callback to the band that started this entire discussion. Rush has an association with South Park. So during one of their concerts, the four characters from South Park, Eric Cartman and the other guys, they start playing one of Rush songs in very, very badly, and they like sort of like start abusing each other and stuff like that. And Cartman says, "I'm Geddy Lee, and I can do whatever I want." Geddy Lee is the singer of Rush, and then a one and a two and a 1, 2, 3, and then the band starts playing. It's quite a nice little thing.
Oh, wow.
And so South Park celebrated its 20th or 25th anniversary or something recently, and it's a huge, massive performance at the Red Rocks Amphitheater in Colorado, I think. It's a beautiful venue. Lots of shows have been filmed over there. And to celebrate this, lots of musicians came as well. Now, Rush has actually disbanded because their beloved drummer and lyricist Neil Peart passed away a few years ago, one of the greatest drummers of all time. And for the first time in about a decade, the other two members got together to perform at the South Park thingy. So, typical nice guys they are, Canadians, not South Park. Anyway, that's a nice Rush-filled.
One of the
factor.
South Park creators was incidentally Srikeit's friend's person who
factor
assisted
even he didn't
Srikeit's
What am I looking
friend. Put the car in Kerala, right? Trey Parker. I wish I were Matt Stoned, but anyway, we shall.
Wow. He worked that in beautifully. Wow. He worked that in.
That is some
Canadians are generally very nice, right? So I'm told that they're the only people who'll thank the ATM after withdrawing cash. Actually say thank you to the ATM. Very nice people. Yeah, so
No,
But,
I assure you in
this-
November
this
2016 also a lot of people did that, but in India.
I assume this fact would come up somewhere, which is that Canada has a strategic reserve for maple syrup, right? Because maple syrup, doesn't get produced at the same rate every year, and also I think the demand supply changes from time to time, right? So to maintain the price of maple syrup stable, they actually have a national maple syrup reserve. And I don't know if you've seen Elementary. There is one episode where actually a drug gang who's been running cocaine for the last 10 years and wants to get out of it actually does it by stealing the strategic maple syrup reserve and selling maple syrup to restaurants in the in New York because obviously pancakes and maple syrup. So and maple syrup apparently doesn't spoil. You can keep it for however long and it'll still remain.
That's a guaranteed road trip now.
All right, we should quickly move on to Naren. You said you have one more, right?
I have two stories.
Oh, lovely.
About Canada. Okay, so the first story is narrated by a friend. I think you guys also know him, but I won't name him.
Two stories is famously also how tall the tallest Canadian building is.
Wow.
Sorry.
Yeah, so this guy used to work for major Indian IT company, and he had, over the years, he had become an expert at, whatever they do. So he used to be sent as a troubleshooter. So they would have these offices and he was used to going to places. He'd go to the place, sort of, fix whatever needed to be fixed and then fly out. And every time the routine was the same. He would land at the airport. One of the local software engineers would come to pick him up, and a software engineer, being a software engineer plus an Indian software engineer would be unmistakable. So he would be bespectacled, he would be 90 pounds, he would be wearing clothes 2 sizes too large from him. Everything was fine. For this one time, he was sent to Winnipeg, Canada. So he lands at Winnipeg.
City. Yeah.
So he lands at Winnipeg, Canada, and cannot see anyone answering to that description. The only other Indian apart from him who is there at the airport is one huge guy who looks like John Abraham on steroids. He's like really bulked up. And everyone's gone away. And so that guy must be it. So he approaches him and it turns out to be his colleague who was supposed to pick him up. So he's wondering, he says, how the hell did a software engineer, an Indian software engineer, acquire a physique like this? And his mystery was soon to be explained, because when he landed up at the software company's office in Winnipeg, Canada, it was a 6-story building with offices on the first and second floor, and then 3 or 4 stories where these boys used to live, and a gym on the ground floor or the basement or something. And everybody in the building was like this, like John Abraham and like love child of John Abraham. Yeah, really muscled guy. So what it turned out was Winnipeg is so cold and it is so dangerous to go out in the winter. You can literally die in 5 minutes if you go out and you get snowed under. No one will even know. If there is a blizzard or something, a ton of snow falls on you, no one will even know you're there. You could be dead. That kind of thing. So, So the only thing they can do is work out in the gym. So they code all day and sort of bench press all night.
I thought it was a survival mechanism there. Because they were bored.
No, they're doing,
I thought you would say, snow falls on them, so if you're only strong, then you can escape from the snow. I don't know, they're bored.
No, but I mean,
we did many other things in hostels when we were bored. But
No, when Srikeit gets John Abraham body, that... Yeah, he's coping.
No, just connecting it back to Calgary and Volkswagen in Toronto. Thankfully, that's where Srikeit's going to. Before he goes, he'll call it Toronto, but once he reaches there, he'll call it
Toronto.
Toronto is how Tronans pronounce Toronto. So not Toronto, but Toronto. But anyway, there's this great Malayalam movie called Jan Aman, where Malayali male nurse is stuck in Alberta. And it's full of snow, and just to celebrate his birthday he comes home for 2 days. If you have the time and opportunity to watch it. It's a pretty amazing movie. It's called Jan Aman. I had to plug that in before Naren jumps into his second story.
No, before Naren's second story, it's not a fact really. I was thinking, are there any Canadian brands? Whenever I ask Srikeit this question,
Canada Dry.
Yeah, Canada Dry is actually one of them. Whenever I ask him this question, he keeps saying Tim Hortons, as if anyone in India knows what that damn thing is. But here are some companies that Indians might know. McCain Foods, French fries and all that. Bombardier, who makes jets and stuff like that.
Jets,
BlackBerry, of course, that's world famous. If for rock music fans, you might have seen a brand of cymbals called Sabian. They are apparently from Canada. Yeah. Zildjian, by the way, is Turkish. The Zildjian cymbals was actually a company that used to make, before they were musical instruments, they were actually war-based cymbals to scare away ships and stuff like that in the Ottoman Empire days. Shopify, of course, and interesting enough, Sun Life of Aditya Birla Sun Life fame. They're famous for other things also. At least in India, they're most famous for Sun Life Financial. So these are the Canadian companies I could find. And
Sun Life is a very weird thing for a Canadian company. one day in a year we work.
And for somebody who is currently reading Andy Weir's
Project Hail Mary.
Project Hail Mary. The Sun Life is slightly off-putting. That's just all the facts that I have. There might be some other content that I have written, but we might or might not get to that later after Naren's story.
Naren, you had one more story.
The second one is about this guy who's, so there are these people.
Just one question. When they got into that, Tony, what vehicle did they go in from Calgary to
Volkswagen Golf. I think that's
Volkswagen Golf. So when it started
Naren said.
snowing, you know what they put on top of it to make sure that nothing comes inside? They put a van cover.
Oh, beautiful.
Wow, never thought that
Beautiful.
opportunity.
This
So, yeah.
is better than my other Vancouver pun, which will come later in this episode.
Oh, beautiful.
Okay. Tony,
Go for
sorry,
it, Naren.
Naren, yes.
Yeah. So the Aboriginal people of Canada are called Inuit, right? So they used to be called Eskimos, but Eskimos is an offensive term apparently. So they're called Inuit. And so there was this Inuit called Nanook, right? And Nanook was an enlightened Inuit. He knew that the only redemption his people would have is if they got education. He knew
So
that
he was quite into it.
Yeah, he was into it, and he
Isn't that a
wanted.
software company?
Yeah, into it is a
INTUIT.
software. They're actually supposed to be quite an evil software company apparently, because they have this software called TurboTax, which everyone in the United States uses, and they have a vested interest in making the tax code so complicated that you cannot file it unless you use TurboTax or some such. It is.
That's genius. I mean, evil. I mean, yeah, it depends on which side of the border you are.
Which side of the pay stub you're on?
Which side of the?
Pay stub.
Hey, is there like a border name for Canada, like Canada and US?
No, but it's the largest
McMahon line, no? McMahon
land
line.
border in the
McMahon
world.
line. Vince McMahon.
Longest land.
Isn't
Really?
it McMahon
McMahon
line?
line?
Isn't it? I mean, I feel like.
I don't know
Yeah.
the name of the line,
Oh.
but I know it's the longest line.
McMahon line is the boundary between Tibet and British India. I'm really sorry. There's another
that's
name
what-
though.
Dude,
there's a name.
It's fine.
Similar
Blame it on the
population
British.
densities. So yeah.
Blame it on the British. Yeah, Naren, your story about Nanook, the enlightened Inuit.
Yeah, so he wanted to bring his tribe up. So he decided that they should get educated. So he wanted, when you are living in a vast featureless expanse, the one thing you really need to know is geometry, because you need to know how to go from point A to point B, navigate with the stars. You need to know trigonometry. You need to, so a lot of things that you need to figure out. So he got textbooks, geometry textbooks. He rewrote them in the Inuit language because, Inuit speak their own language. So he sort of
Which famously
managed to-
doesn't have 1,000 words for snow.
It doesn't have 1,000 words. Yeah, it doesn't have. Yeah. It's a misnomer, misconception. Anyway, he wrote this book, and he wanted to print it and distribute it among his people. But the northern hemisphere being the northern hemisphere, it was very expensive. So he shopped around, and finally he got supplier in China who said that, and they give him very good deal. So finally he paid the payment, those books were printed, and then they arrived. They arrived at a port somewhere in Canada, but obviously not where this guy's people were living. So he had to take all the books, put them on dog sleds, right? And it's quite an enterprise, and take the dog sleds to the Arctic Circle, right? And he was really proud of himself because he was the first guy to cart Asian geometry to polar coordinates.
Oh my God.
Oh!
Wow.
Holy crap.
Okay.
Masterful.
I'm just screenshotting this moment. Holy.
Masterful. Absolutely masterful. Because
I got my revenge on Chuck finally.
oh my God.
Yeah.
Naren, this is absolutely masterful because like the Australian who threw the boomerang and turned around, we did not see this coming.
Wow. No, genuinely did not see that coming and he set it up brilliantly, by the way. First one was some friend of his who went to Winnipeg of all places. Oh, beautiful. I think that
Wait,
is
do
a
you
sign.
remember that phase when we had groaners on Twitter by Shenoy called Shenoys? They were called Shenoys, right?
Maybe someday. Dude, listen, Naren, if you write books, forget dogs, I will cart them across North America on a sled to deliver them to the Inuit, saying this is wisdom from Mallard. Anyway, Tony, I think that's a good enough cue for us. So let's do this one by one. what do Tamil bridegrooms
No.
get?
Do you want to like give the audience a chance to get a pillow to scream into, or like lemon to bite into?
Yeah.
All
So
those things.
anything that you like. If you happen to be near Srikeit when you are hearing this, then just give him a hug or something.
Oh
because
my.
okay, what do Tamil bridegrooms get poured over their heads if they get married in Canada? Mapalai syrup. Your turn.
Maple syrup. No. Mine's one full story. I can't.
Okay, cool. Then I'll finish
go for
mine.
it.
In Canada, there is a problem of, believe it or not, because there are so many Indians over there now, atta adulteration. To combat this, the Canadian Food Authority has developed a stamp specifically for high quality atta. Do you know what that stamp is called? True dough.
Oh yeah.
And
Just
of
in the
course,
nick of time.
oh, nice. And of course, if you use true dough to make a chapati, you will use what kitchen utensil? Oh, tawa. Okay, there is a part of your city, sir, where you will be walking down one road and suddenly you will be taken back in time and like be taken somewhere else only altogether. And then when you walk over there, you'll suddenly be transported somewhere else. And before you know it, you will be back in the first place where you began. And you'll be wondering, what the fuck is happening over here? And do you know what part of the city this is? Quentin.
Tarantino.
Okay. Yeah. No, I never got Tarantino movies. Anyway, and finally, what's the slowest form of communication in Canada?
Oh, I think I know this. Is it Halifax?
Halifax. Oh.
I have exhausted my Canada-based.
I know that only because Halifax is coming up again in my story.
Of course.
Which if you're
Go for
ready
it,
with
Tony.
invoking the spirits of Andy Saltzman, but with much less talent. I'm going to tell you a story about
But with a lot more hair.
Canada. So famously, all you have to do right now is Google city names in Canada. But if you're driving, please don't. I will try to audio subtitle my bad parts. Naren's rubbing, taken off his spectacles and rubbed his eyes. Srikeit's given up. But anyway, I haven't even started. So they don't have happy hours in Canada, but you can play a game and win a peg. Winnipeg.
Oh, wow.
So I once went into a pub in Canada and asked, do I place the order with you? And the owner said, मैं सिर्फ Kitchener हूँ. Okay, Kitchener is a city.
Kitchener is a suburb in Toronto.
Right, yeah. And the owner said, मैं सिर्फ Kitchener हूँ. 1 minute, Mrs. आऊगा. Okay, Mrs. आऊगा is another place in Canada.
Nice. Yeah. Oh, wow.
So I wanted
he's doing this also approach. Wow.
I wanted a beer, so I asked her, Quebecs मिलता है क्या? Quebec. She said, in Canada, you can't be so transactional. Do some pleasantries first. So I asked her if it was true that Canada was so much behind the times as South Park makes it out to be. So she said to me, well, I still send physical letters to my family, but I Halifax anymore. I Halifax anymore.
Halifax. Nice.
Okay. So I asked her where she stayed, and she replied, where all the Punjabis stay in Canada, Brampton. But I couldn't hear her because I was lost in her eyes. In my head, I was going, Oshawa. Mahia say Oshawa. Oshawa is another city in Canada. I told her, she's so pretty, I could have a wank over her. And she said,
God.
and she said, shall I cut your breath? Actually, that's a translation from Hindi because she said, Saskatoon. Saskatoon is another term. तो मैं सोचा जल्दी चलता हूँ और तुरंत ही निकल गया. Anyway,
oh my God.
Anyway,
whatever Ottawa you say about Canada, it may be cold, but the people are extremely warm. And you only tell me, is there a bigger Victoria? Okay, that's it. Yeah.
Victoria.
We're sorry, Srikeit,
Well
if you
played.
didn't have enough
Too much,
motivation
too
to
much.
leave this city.
Oh man.
We're all
Yeah.
together.
I think there is nothing that can stop me now.
Yeah.
Oof. But very, very grateful to all you fellows for this slightly unusual,
Send
cropped up, but very well-meaning
Yeah.
Winning send off.
Yeah. We started with funeral music.
Simplified
and ended
ने
with a
किया
fun run.
होगा तो कुछ सोच समझ के ही किया
किया
होगा.
होगा.
That's what you need to keep in mind. Like, forget the result.
Superb. So thank you
This
so
was
much.
our
I shall
Monet.
see you
This
from
was
the
our
other side.
demonetization episode where we wanted to get rid of. But
That went somewhere. Anyway, so yes, we will miss Srikeit. I
In
suppose.
my physical form.
Physical form.
Physically,
I suppose.
yeah.
Physically, yeah.
Yeah.
And we will be back with many more simplifieds with Srikeit being our reporter in the Great White Brown. I mean, Great Brown, not Great Brown.
Yeah, it's also brown.
Brownish North. So yes, Naren, you know what to do. Send off our boy with good tidings and an elder's blessings with Inuit wisdom.
So yeah, this is, I really haven't thought that there has, I'm feeling whatever I'm going to say is going to be very inadequate, but
yeah, it is very counter-intuitive.
Oh,
yeah.
Start stopping only.
Quickly, Naren, quickly.
Yeah, stay safe, stay Canadian, and stay simplified.